Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. Man, they're going to send you across the border into Canada, man. Into enemy territory, let's say. How you feeling about that?
I'm excited about it. I like visiting new places, and yeah, I mean, he's from Calgary, so I'm sure he'll have a lot of people there. But Edmonton and Calgary are kind of like rivals, so maybe I'll have some Edmonton locals that don't like the fact that he's from Calgary. I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows, man? But I think it's Canada. Everybody's pretty nice. Like most Canadians you meet are pretty nice people. I feel.
Yeah, I've been to the islands on the west coast. I've been to some of the bigger cities on the west side, and that stereotype that everybody in Canada is nice is like it's pretty accurate from my
Yeah,
experiences.
yeah, yeah. I lived in Washington for a bunch of years, and then it's
Oh,
right
nice.
there on the border with Canada. So you get a lot of Canadians come down, and yeah, every time I meet somebody from Canada, just like yeah, it's not even a stereotype. It's like true, But it's funny. Yeah. Let's talk about the opponent, man, Chad. What do you think of Chad, and what do you think of the fighting style?
He's got a kind of kickboxing background kind of guy. He kind of moves in from what I see and what I can kind of read on him. He looks like he moves um, a lot of footwork and he creates a lot of angles. And it kind of reminds me of like Dominic Cruz. Um, I spent some time training with Dominic years ago down at Alliance and just kind of picking his brain about his footwork. And so to me, when he's some of the angle shifts he does with his feet remind me of those same sort of things that Dominic did and does. So, so yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes on the feet. He swings heavy. He's got big overhand right, good left check left hook. He's definitely game too. Like there's a couple of the fights I've watched where he's gotten cracked pretty good. Looked like he busted his nose in one of his fights early, and then he doesn't go away. Um, so I know I got a tough guy in front of me who's not going to quit on himself. So I got to make him quit.
Yeah. You're right, man. He's kind of a smaller guy for the division, shorter guy, not smaller. But yeah, he can crack like, and he gets cracked, and he doesn't go away, which is kind of like a fight that you really enjoy, right? An opponent that you really like.
Yeah, I like that. Um, I like testing myself. Not only just like from a technical standpoint, but also when the going gets tough and you got to get gritty a little bit out there. And I think Chad's a game opponent. So if I have to bring that out of me, it's there. I know it's there. I prefer not to have to do that, but if I need to dig down deep and it gets into that sort of a fight, then I welcome it.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, man, let's talk about the last fight you had. The first round submission, arm triangle choke. Brian Keller, he was coming back. You know what I mean? A lot of things against him, but a lot of things against you as well in that fight coming in. What'd you think of that whole fight before even getting the submission?
Yeah, I like Brian, so I was a little bummed for him. He just got cut too, so you know it's been a rough patch for him. But yeah, I just went in and did what I said I was gonna do. Kind of use my length and my distance, but at the same time pressuring him, finding my opportunities to pressure him, and yeah, I feel like things were going pretty well, and then was able to secure that arm triangle pretty quickly. So, I think it gave me confidence, in my especially in my like in my ground game. That's something that since I moved to the pit about 4.5 years ago now, um, that I feel like I've developed even the most. If you look at, and it's kind of similar to my opponent, like he has a lot of submission losses early in his career when he actually like barely had a winning record at one point, and so it's a testament to him that he kept fighting through some of that adversity, and now here he is in the UFC, 4 or 5 fights deep. Um, so I could definitely respect that, but I feel like my ground game and my you saw it a little bit on the Ultimate Fighter, and you saw it in that last fight. So, I think that I'm a problem in a lot of ways for a lot of people, both on the feet and on the ground. And so, yeah, I think I just was able to showcase that against Brian.
Was the submission like really in your mind ahead of that fight?
No, I actually was in my mind. I was going to knock him out.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I could pressure him and still stay at length and use my distance. And he has to. If I'm not crashing into him, then the only other way that we are in the pocket is if he crashes into me. And I was really confident that I could kind of back him up and use my length. And then when he decided to try to close that distance, I was going to be able to just pop out and send something down the pipe. But it just didn't turn out that way. I mean, I was kind of I wanted to clinch him a lot against the cage and wear on him. I'm a big guy and I'm pretty good in that kind of Greco-Roman type tie clinch, plum, half plum kind of positions. And so, yeah, I just had success really early on with that position, and just kept the foot on the gas, so to speak. And so I didn't have to go to some of the things I thought I was going to have to go to in my head.
You know, now this has kind of like become a trend in the UFC the last couple of years, especially with the Contender Series. Once the Contender Series is over and they sign a bunch of like these prospects, you see like this massive, number of fighters that are just getting cut. It's just like it's a pressure, man. Like even if you don't have a fight coming up, and even if you're coming off a win, it's a lot of pressure, isn't it, on a fighter? Just to see that happen to someone else.
I mean, yes, I know that. I think there's some comfort in the fact that for the most part, it's within your control. Like if I go out and do my job and I go out and I make weight, and I put on a great fight and I win the fight, it's gonna be hard for them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's in my control. So I guess that kind of in my mind, I don't really think about that whole aspect of it. Is that anytime sometimes they cut guys and you're scratching your head like, dang, that guy like Carl Williams, man. Carl
Yeah.
Williams is a sucker punch guy, and so I had dinner with him a few times and been around him at the PI. He had moved his whole family to Vegas,
Yeah.
and what was he like 3-1 in the UFC, 4-1 in the UFC?
Yes,
I know
sir.
his fighting style in some of those fights wasn't the most exciting. He just kind of gets guys down and keeps them there. But I mean, it's also heavyweights. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a thin division, and he was winning fights. And I know he lost his last one in a close one. And so I was a little, things like that. Yeah, those are the kind of things that surprise you, and you kind of sit back like, shit, man. It's at any moment this could end. Like no matter who you are, you could be the 25-pound kid. I know he kind of did that to himself in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
uh, you know, but I think that as a fighter, like you control what you can control. Um, are you professional? Like if when the UFC is sending you stuff like, hey, you need to get this medical done, or you need to
Mm-hmm.
fill out this tax form, or we need your coroner's passports, or whatever. You get these emails. You have this business transaction essentially as you go through camp, and are you on top of those things? Like you only it's the same thing I would tell like my high school athletes that I used to coach. Like you only have one reputation. You know what I mean? Like, and every person in the organization that you interact with, like you give them a reputation of you. Like how do you interact with them? Are you polite to people, whether it be the CEO of the company or the janitor? I want them all to be like, that's a solid guy. He treats me with respect, while at the same time standing up for yourself and trying to at least. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough, yeah. But I honestly like. I'm having fun. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the UFC has been a lot better to me this second time around than they were the first time. The first time, I don't think I had a single fight with more than 6 weeks notice. A couple of them were like 4 weeks, and I was younger and dumber and in and out of the gym a little bit more than I probably should have been. And so sometimes I was, I mean, I always took the fights, but it was sometimes like, damn, I got to get going quick because I've just kind of been slacking a little bit. And, I mean, obviously you learn from those things, but I don't know, I mean, I'm just having fun and they're keeping me busy and they're giving me fun fights. And as long as, I feel like they're happy with what I'm giving them and I'm happy. I'll be happier when I get a new contract, but I'm happy with what they're giving me too in a lot of ways. So hopefully we can keep that going.
Yeah, man, this is your third fight of the year. There's some guys don't even get that. Some guys are fighting once a year, which is wild. I mean, how do you survive on that? But did you fight during the Joe Silva era?
Yeah. I was with Burt Watson, man, Joe Silva.
Yeah,
We had Goldberg was still there, and
yeah,
it was a different world back then,
yeah.
for
It
sure.
was. It was definitely a different world back then. Yeah, your last camp, you kind of did a lot of it in Vegas. This time around, what's your structure like? It's more at home.
Yeah, I wanted to go out to Vegas again, but the reality is, like, we just had a son,
Hmm.
and so we've got 3 kids now, and over the summer when I was getting ready for my last fight, which was in late July, my wife was off work, my kids were out of school, and so me leaving for Vegas for 2 weeks at a time was doable because she didn't have a million things going on. During the school year, she works full time. We got 3 kids with 3 different drop offs and pickups and sports and all the things life brings. And so I didn't feel like it was fair to her to just be like, hey, I'm going to take off for Vegas for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. Um, and I have a good team here that it's a small group of guys that we work together every day. But I've got good guys to grapple with, good wrestlers, good strikers to strike with. Like, to me, like, yeah, it's fun to go out and mix it up with a bunch of like big name guys. And oh man, I got to drill with this guy today and that guy and move around with this dude. And that's really fun. And I have a good time. And it definitely, helps me build confidence. But if I got my little stable of guys that could push me, like I don't really necessarily need to be in Vegas. I do miss the PI, and I've still been utilizing the PI. My strength and conditioning coach is working hybridly with me and the coach that I have here at home. Still on the same system that we would have been on if we were at the PI. And then my nutritionist, Dawn, she's been sending me all those icon meals. They sponsor the UFC, and apparently we have access to them sending us meals because I'm eating. My grocery bill's gone down the last couple months because I don't eat with the family so much anymore. So
Yeah. That's good, man. That's good. Especially if you got another kid, you know what I mean? That's
right,
another
yeah,
level.
man. For the diapers and wipes and stuff, everything helps.
Exactly, exactly, man. People, like, you were talking about earlier about what goes on behind the scenes, that's your reputation and, and like, you got to take care of business. There's so much stuff going on in a fighter's life, and people just think like, "Oh yeah, he just trains and fights." And that's so far from the truth, right?
Yeah, it's always a juggling act, a balancing act, and there's always something going on in life, and when you're in training camp, you definitely have to prioritize your training, and that has to be your focus. And God bless all the spouses of the men and women that are in this sport because
Yeah.
they don't get enough praise because they have to struggle with them and deal with it, and deal with the fact that their significant other is 100% mentally invested in that target date ahead. So yeah, it's something that I wish there were more like, um, how like a lot of like there'll be like documentary series where they follow an NFL team for the
Yeah.
preseason or something where you get to see the inside workings of the
Mhm.
team. I wish there was more of that. I know they do the embedded stuff and the countdown stuff, but not just like the kind of routine film, but like some actual stuff that like showed fighters' lives and some of the complicated webs that we spin.
Yeah. For sure, man. Yeah, eventually, as the sport grows, it'll get bigger and bigger. Going back to what you were saying about like going out to Vegas, and you spent a lot of time in the last camp in Vegas training with big names, and I feel like this, drilling and stuff is important and training with them, but I feel like maybe you needed that like mental boost from that, and then now you go into this camp and you got the people around you that kind of focus on you only for your fight. It helps a lot, right?
Yeah, for me, it's just like getting out. Like I plan on going out to Vegas, continuing to go out to Vegas and utilize the resources there and the relationships I've built. But it isn't necessary for me to move to Vegas to have like uh, success. You know what I mean? Like I can have success from where I'm at with the people that are around me, and I'm hoping that we're still trying to build our team here and grow it. So if I'm having success and guys are helping me put in work and they're getting ready for fights and we can attract more and more fighters to this area, we're hoping to grow the program. So it's not just me about me. It's about like wanting to be a part of helping grow the program that I'm in and the system that I believe in, that I've learned. And so yeah, I'm happy, and that, like you said, like going out to Vegas was a confidence booster above all else, and like it's something that's good for me to do from time to time, I think. But um, yeah, I think I got everything I need here at home too.
Yeah, yeah. There's world champions from all over the world. You don't have to be in Vegas. You know what I mean? There's all over the world. There's champions. Remember back in the day, everybody had a small team. Like people weren't cross training. Remember, the cross training was like forbidden in many aspects, right? You've been training for so long.
Yeah, I mean, even in like small town cross training, like I'm
Hmm.
not even talking about the big gyms cross training, but like in my old town in Visalia, like just cry when people would feel very weird when you went to work out with a coach, a Muay Thai coach that wasn't from the gym, like little
Yeah,
things like that you have to deal with, and it's like I've always kind of been like anybody that wants to train with me, like like I want to get in work with everybody, so. But I do believe in loyalty, and like sticking to with your guys. And I honestly, when I moved here, I fell in love with the system that we kind of have. Um, it's different than I came from, so I had to adapt and learn and adapt it to my game. But I picked up a lot of things, and I feel like I'm a way better fighter as a result of it. So, staying true to that system, I think, and the people that have helped me get here, I think, is important for me.
and the event you're fighting on is the first event where the new rules changes come into effect. So what do you think about the 12 to 6 elbows?
I love it all, man. I've been actually utilizing some of those, not only just 12 to 6 elbows from ground and pound position and drilling it a little bit more, but uh, as far as my recollection or understanding of it is the downed opponent also changes.
Yeah.
Where if they're not on a knee, they are not a downed opponent. They have to have at least one knee down to be considered a downed opponent. So if they're just going to their hands, it's still fair game. And we're already toying with like different positions where we could really try to be the first guy. Try to be the first guy to get that knockout with some of these positional, transition stuff. So it's something that I've been thinking about a lot, actually. Obviously, if it doesn't come in the fight, it doesn't come. But there's ways you can get there, and there's some positions that I'm looking forward to testing out, in the cage. And man, wouldn't that be sweet to be like the first
Yeah.
knockout from like the new rules?
Yeah, for sure, man. And a lot of those positions, from me kind of like dissecting it and talking with fighters and coaches about it, is you don't see those strikes coming. You can't, like, because a lot of those positions, the person's behind you.
Yeah, you get a guy up against the cage, and you get him down, and he's trying to tripod up a lot.
Hmm.
We look at the different ways people get to their feet or get off the cage or try to reverse position on the cage and defend on the cage. And one of the ways a lot of people do it is tripoding.
Hmm.
Um, Especially when their head is pushed into the cage, they'll try to come off to an angle and tripod right there.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous spot to be nowadays. Once those rules go into effect, that is not a place I'd want to be. Um, and yeah, about just last week we were sparring with like the puffy MMA gloves, and I had
Hmm.
my sparring partner against the cage. I had him down, and as he came up in that tripod, I didn't throw him hard. I just kind of like, hey, I could throw knees here, like.
Hmm.
And I had knee pads on too, but I just gave him little love taps on the head, like, dude, I could throw knees in this position now, and it was a kind of a light bulb moment, like, oh shit, man, like there's things about these positions that change with these rules, and so it'll be interesting, to see if
Yeah.
how much that gets utilized on that night because it'll be like you said, it'll be the first night that they go into effect.
Yeah, and the head, especially against the cage, it has nowhere to move. So once the knee impacts the head, it's like you're feeling that full blast, man. It's gonna be interesting, like you said. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know
Yeah.
how what other guys are thinking about it, but I definitely have been like.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's all
Some.
fun, man. This whole thing's just a
Mm.
big game. Like it's all a game, and you're just trying to like button smash your way through it.
Yeah. The game of violence, you know, like that's
Yeah.
that's what it is. November 2nd, man. UFC Fight Night. You traveled up to Edmonton, Canada. Cody, thank you, man. All the best in the upcoming fight, and yeah, man. Hopefully, you can utilize these new rules and see what happens.
All right, man. Always good talking to you, John. Take care of yourself. Keep training hard.